to this live stream from the London Transport Museum. My name is Chloe and I'll be your host. And joining us, we've got our scientist Laurie. Hi Laurie.
Hello.
And Stuart. Hi Stuart.
Hi.
Hi to everyone who's watching. At the London Transport Museum, we tell the story of how people travelled around the city in the past, how we travel in the present, and how we might travel in the future. What types of objects do you think we might have in our collection to help us to tell that story? You've got 30 seconds to come up with at least 3 different objects with the person next to you. Go for it. Your challenge was to come up with at least 3 different things you think that we've got in our collection at the London Transport Museum. How did you do? Did you get mostly big things or small things too? We've got over 500,000 objects in our collection, from big things like buses, taxis and trams, to small things like these train tickets and maps, cutlery from the old London Transport staff canteens, photographs like this one of bus conductor Agatha Claudette Hart, uniforms like these hats for Sikh and Rastafarian members of staff, and most importantly for us today, posters, over 15,000 of them. We'll be taking a look at just a few of these posters today before we set you a challenge to design your own. To help us, we need to find out more about our special topic for today, how vehicles affect our environment. With the person next to you, come up with some ways that you think the way we use vehicles affects our environment. You've got a minute this time. Go. Well done, everybody. What answers did you get? Stuart, now you study ice ages. What can you tell us about the way that transport affects our climate?
Okay, hey, so I do study ice ages, that's right. So I look at what the climate was like in the past, going back hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, millions of years, right? And we know when we look back at the past that the climate has changed naturally. We've gone from very, very hot periods, like when the dinosaurs existed, and we were several degrees hotter than we are today, to very, very cold periods like an ice age. You've probably seen the Disney movie Ice Age. And one of the reasons that the climate changes so much when we go and look back in the past is because of different levels of things we call greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So you've probably heard of one of them. The most famous is carbon dioxide. And the amount of carbon dioxide around us, up in the air, up in the atmosphere, changes over time. And when we look back in the past, we can see that it's changed. And that has a big impact on how hot the planet is. So we know the difference now in the modern day is that we as people, are producing these greenhouse gases as carbon dioxide. And we know from looking at the past, when carbon dioxide has changed, that the climate changes. So we can assume that in the future, when we emit carbon dioxide, the climate's probably going to change as well. So the question then is, well, what role does transport play? And every time you get in your car and your parents or your guardian turn on the engine, you've probably noticed when you go to the back of the car and you look at the exhaust, some gas comes out. And that gas is carbon dioxide. It's one of these greenhouse gases. And so a little bit of gas from your car goes up into the atmosphere. And then when your neighbours turn on their car, a little bit of carbon dioxide from their car goes up into the atmosphere. And then when their neighbours turn on their car, the same thing happens, and over again. And if you imagine we've got billions of people on the planet all driving their cars, that's going to be a lot of greenhouse gases going up into the atmosphere. So over time, that carbon dioxide, those greenhouse gases, that builds up and up and up and up and up. And that has the effect that it traps all of the heat close to the surface of the planet and stops it escaping out towards space. You've probably heard of it called the greenhouse effect. And so the greenhouse effect over time, as we use our cars, is going to make the planet get warmer and warmer and warmer. And in fact, it already is. Scientists at the University of East Anglia, where Laurie and myself work, they're measuring the temperature of the Earth. And we know that since we started using cars, the temperature of the Earth is going up. And so that is how using your car contributes towards what we call climate change or global warming. And in the UK, scientists think about a third of all of our greenhouse gases are produced from transport.
So transport engineers are coming up with ways of powering London's buses in a way that don't release gases like carbon dioxide into the air. So they're replacing petrol with electricity as a power source, either partially, like in these hybrid buses, which use a mixture of petrol and electricity, or fully, like in these electric buses. Out of 9,000 buses in London, over 3,000 of them are hybrid buses, and over 300 are fully electric, like this one. Transport for London hopes to have over 2,000 fully electric buses by 2025. But it's not just electricity. 10 London buses are powered by a gas called hydrogen. You can see where it's stored in the cylinders on the top of this hydrogen fuel cell bus. And about a third of London's buses run on biofuel, which is a mixture of petrol, as you can see in the middle, and oil left over from making cups of coffee, or vegetable oil left over from cooking food, or even fat left over from processing meat. Coffee, vegetable oil, fat, powering a bus? What? Yes. Replacing some of the petrol with biofuel reduces the amount of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere compared to if these buses were using petrol alone. The less we use vehicles that require fuel, the better it is for the environment. But we still need to get around. How can we use the vehicles that we've got in a way that's better for the planet? Laurie, this is where you come in. So Laurie, can you tell us please a little bit about the research that you do and what it means?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Chloe. Hello, everyone. My name's Laurie, and I am an environmental social scientist. And what this means is I study people and how they impact the environment. And specifically, I kind of look at people's behaviors and the impacts that the decisions that we make can have on our environment as well.
Thanks, Laurie. And what are you specifically researching?
So specifically, I am researching how people can use the vehicles that we already have, but in a more sustainable way. So in a way which is better for the planet. And what this means essentially is how we can use the vehicles that we already have in a way that produce less greenhouse gases, like Stuart was explaining.
So how do you research this?
So I'm interested in people who are using their cars in different ways. And the way that they're using them in different ways is through sharing them. So, for example, they could be sharing them with their neighbours, so they have one car for 3 or 4 different households, or they could be sharing the way that they drive their cars to work. So, for example, I could drive to work and collect some of my friends on the way, and we all travel in my one car. And the way that I research this is by talking to these people who do these things, and kind of understanding why they do them, why it's important to them that they share their cars in these ways. But also, we can't deny that cars are really, really useful. So trying to understand where this trade-off comes between having a car which is really useful, but also realizing that it's creating some problems, and we should probably think about using them in a more sustainable way.
Wow, thanks, Laurie. That sounds really exciting. We've actually got some questions from Mayfield Primary School students. I'm going to ask you just 3 of them now. So Ella asks, why is it better to car share than to go in a car by yourself?
That's a brilliant question, Ella. So as Stuart was explaining earlier, every time we use our car, we produce a little bit of greenhouse gases. But over time, these all add up. And it means that we are actually having quite a big impact on our climate through climate change and global warming. But if you think every time you share your car, it means that you or the person you're sharing with isn't traveling in their own car. So it means that one car isn't being used. And every time we don't use a car, it means that we save on the number of greenhouse gases that we're putting into the atmosphere.
Laurie, what do people enjoy about sharing their cars?
Yeah, cool. So lots of people really enjoy having someone to talk to and having some company in their car. So if you think about people who travel to work in their car and they spend a lot of time stuck in traffic and it can be quite stressful, having someone there to share your journey with and just have a bit of a chat can be really, really nice. Also, knowing that you've made the choice to leave your car at home and share with someone else can give people a real sense of pride too, and you feel like you're doing a good thing for the planet.
But Laurie, what are some of the reasons that people don't enjoy sharing their cars?
So, if you think about the reasons why cars are really useful, it's because we can decide where we want to go, when we want to go. So, we have that independence to make these choices for ourselves. And some of the reasons that people don't like sharing cars are because they don't have this independence anymore. So you can't just decide to jump in your car and go somewhere. You have to talk to another person and make sure that where you want to go and when you want to go there aligns with somebody else as well. So that's one of the main reasons that people see this as a bit of a negative about sharing cars.
Oh, okay, that does make sense. That does make it sound like almost like car sharing is like turning using a car into almost like using a bus, which is when a bus goes along one route that's already been agreed. So you have to be going that same way. And it also only goes at certain times as well. So thinking about public transport, Tafsir asks, how will you convince people to use public transport in the future?
That's a really great question. I think the way that we can kind of encourage people to use public transport is to think about all the amazing aspects of using public transport. So, for example, if you're traveling somewhere with your mum or your dad or your guardian, and you take the car, they might be stuck in traffic, or the person driving might get quite stressed, and there's nothing really exciting to look out the window at if you're stuck on a motorway. But if you take the bus, you can be on the top deck, sitting and playing with your friends and your family, and having this amazing view. And the same if you take the train, it's a bit of an adventure, isn't it, really? It's something exciting and something that we don't necessarily get to do all the time. So I think focusing on the positive aspects of public transport and kind of turning it into a bit of an adventure could be a nice way to encourage people to leave the car at home.
Oh, yeah, I love that idea. And thinking positively about transport, last question for you, Laurie, from Annika is, what is your favourite mode of transport?
Oh, that is a tough one. I think it's got to be my bicycle. I love getting on my bicycle, especially when the sun is shining. Often it's a lot quicker than taking the car or taking the bus, because you don't have to get stuck in the traffic, and you can breathe the fresh air and you can have a nice view as well. You can take nicer routes to get around. And also, the benefit of the bicycle is it doesn't emit any of these nasty greenhouse gases.
Yes. Amazing. Thanks, Laurie. It was great to hear about your research and also to learn a little bit more about how different forms of transport contribute to global warming. And time for you all to think together in your classrooms with your classmates. We're going to give you 3 minutes to answer these 3 questions that are coming up on your screen. Make sure that you share your answers and write them down, as we're going to be coming back to them. How would you improve bus design in the future? So redesigning a bus for the future to encourage people to leave their cars at home. Laurie, have you got an idea for this? And maybe Stuart too.
And I think we could make buses even more fun and even more of a relaxing time, but also a bit of an adventure. And the way that I think we could do this is by having something like tablets in the back of the seat in front of you. So when you're on the bus, you can watch whatever you want. Or maybe we could have headphone sockets so you can plug in your headphones and listen to bus radio, bus FM. I think that would be great.
That sounds super fun. I definitely want to ride on your bus, Laurie. Stuart, how can you?
I think I can go one better than that. I think I can do one better. I would like to see a cafe on each and every one bus, because when I'm traveling, you know what? If I'm there a long time, my belly starts to rumble. I'll get a hungry man. So I'd like to a little cafe at the back where I could pick up a sandwich, a snack, maybe a hot dog, get myself a drink, and just lay back, enjoy the journey. And you know what? You know what would be even better is, let's say I have a coffee. Maybe the grounds for making that coffee, so the leftover coffee beans, could go and be used to power the bus, so we could actually get reuse some of that waste material, and then that will have the added benefit of reducing the greenhouse gas emissions from the bus, so we'll get an even lower carbon form of transport.
Wow, amazing ideas, both of you. So there you go. There's some fantastic examples. It's over to you now. Answer those 3 questions. You've got 3 minutes. managed to collect the answers to those questions as a class. Were your answers similar or different to the ones that Laurie and Stuart came up with? I wonder. Well, now it's time for you to express your ideas in your design challenge. Woo! Here's your brief. Your brief is to design a poster that asks people to consider the effects of their vehicle use on our planet, persuades people to leave their cars at home, and shows off your design improvements for your new buses of the future. Yes. To get some inspiration for this, let's have a look at some of the posters in the London Transport Museum collection. Have a look at this poster by Nick Hardcastle, designed in 1987, and see if you can answer these questions. You've got 1 minute. Which animal has the artist turned these taxis into? What is he saying about the speed of taxis compared to underground trains? And what's the overall message of this poster? Okay, time's up. Stuart and Laurie, these taxis are moving at a snail's pace. Does looking at this poster encourage you both to use the underground instead?
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, it shows me that the taxis are slow and I should get off the road, I think.
Yeah, I really like this poster. I like how the artist has made all the snails look a bit miserable. And they're all grey as well, which reminds me of all the pollution that comes from using cars and being stuck in traffic a lot.
Thanks both. Next up is this poster from 1990. Now have a look at it while it's on your screens. I'm also going to show you a close-up so that you can answer a question which is specifically about the families. Can you spot there's two families having very different experiences here? Which family is having more fun on their day out together? And why might that be? You've got a minute to answer these two questions. Go for it. Have you shared some reasons? If so, I'm going to ask you, what do you think is the overall message of this poster? So you've seen those families having different amounts of fun, one in a car, one on a bus. What's the overall message? All right, pause your discussions because you might have noticed that there's some words underneath the pictures, and words and pictures are both equally important on a poster. So Stuart and Laurie, we're just going to come to you and see if you can help us out by spotting a couple of the ways that this poster artist has used words to encourage us to think about how cool it is to be high up when we're traveling.
Yeah, brilliant. So this poster says taking the kids out by car is one thing. On the bus, it's another story. And when you say something's another story, it's an expression that we use to mean it's something completely different. And so this is saying, traveling by car is one thing, but by the bus, it's a completely different experience. But also, if we look at the way that they've chosen to spell story here, it's not the way that we would usually spell it. It's spelt story, and the same way that we use the word story to mean a floor. So it's basically saying it's another story as another story to the bus, and giving this idea that when we travel by bus, we can get really high up and have this brand new perspective that we wouldn't otherwise get.
Yeah, absolutely. So we all know that the best place to travel on the bus is the top deck at the front because it feels like you're on an adventure. So the artist here has used loads of emotive language, we call it. So language that makes you feel something, makes you excited. So words like adventure, and he says, enjoy a day out that will make the kids feel 10 feet tall. Again, that's another play on words because buses are very, very tall. I'd imagine about 10 feet. I'm not entirely certain. But again, it's saying it will make you feel big, it will make you feel excited. And again, maybe that's something that you guys can think about when you're designing your posters. What kind of language can you use? How can you make your audience or your aim in your poster app feel really, really excited and keen to get on the bus?
Oh, it's almost time for you to be thinking about that. Thanks so much, Stuart. We're going to look at just one more poster before we do. And it's this poster from 2010 by the artist Rachel Lilly. Let's have a look at this together. So how does repetition in the words connect our health with the health of our city? So we're focusing again on the words. Then how is colour used to connect healthy bodies with a healthy city? Looking at the pictures. And lastly, can you spot some of London's famous landmarks? Over to you. You've got 1 minute. Okay, Stuart and Laurie, how many landmarks did you spot?
Oh, well, I definitely saw the gherkin on there. And I think I saw the London Eye as well.
And I'm pretty sure I saw Tower Bridge and the Houses of Parliament.
Yes. Well done, all. So that's 4. Did you manage to beat Laurie and Stuart and get more than 4? Oh, I'm excited to find out. You can, by the way, you can share your posters at the end with us on social media, and you could also tell us how many landmarks you could spot, for example, and also some of the other answers to the questions we've asked you here today as well. It's now time, though, for you to decide which is the best of the 3 posters we've looked at together. Which one do you think is the most persuasive, that can persuade people looking at it to change their ideas about transport and switch over from one form of transport to another? reckon you quite liked this last one, didn't you? This green one that we looked at, this one by Rachel Lilly. Can you tell us why? Why do you think that's the best?
Well, there's a few things I like about this. I like the design of it and the way it looks, and I think it's quite clever that these guys are cycling around on a leaf, and obviously that makes you think about the environment. But I think the thing I really like about this poster is that it focuses on the positive changes you get from getting on your bike or getting on the bus. So it focuses on the health benefits that come from it. So it's good for you and it's green for London. And so when you're designing your poster, you could maybe think about the negative effects of being in your car. But I think far more effective is to focus on the positives. And again, we've done a lot of research on this at our university in East Anglia. And it shows that when you focus on the positive benefits of taking up green behaviors, so it might be something like jumping on your bike, but it might also be that you save money by getting on your bike. It's much, much cheaper. And that's a much more effective way of encouraging people to take up new behaviors.
Amazing. I like that one too. Laurie, are you agreeing with us? Do you think that one should win? Or are you going for another one?
That's not my personal favourite, Stuart. I'm going to have to disagree with you there. My personal favourite is the middle poster. And I really like this poster because, yes, I do agree it's important to show kind of the positive things that can happen when we make these changes. And we can see that in this poster. So we can see the family on the bus having a really, really fun time. And also, if you look closely at the words on the bus, it says they're going to the swimming pool, they're going to the cinema, they're going to the zoo, they're going to the park. They're going to go and do all these really fun things. But I also like this poster because it shows you what the alternative is. So that there's one family having this great old time on the bus, but the alternative is being stuck in traffic in this really stressful family car. And I think it's sometimes important to kind of see the two options as well, rather than to just focus on the positive, to know what you're comparing that against. So in this case, it would be the negative of being stuck in traffic in that car.
Now it's time to get designing your own posters. You can spend more time on it when this video ends, but definitely get started on a plan now. Here's your brief again. So your brief is to design a poster that asks people to consider the effects of their use of vehicles on our planet, persuades them to leave their cars at home, and shows off your ideas for your redesigned buses for the future. So first off, you need to come up with some words. They should be memorable, so keep it short and keep it snappy. Can you use repetition or rhyme? Check out these words on your screen now and talk to the person next to you for maybe just 1 minute about some of the words you could use to get your message across. But before you do, Laurie and Stuart, are there any snappy lines or rhymes that you can think of?
Yeah, so here's a rhyme that I'm definitely going to be putting on my poster. Be a climate superstar, take the bus and you'll go far.
I love it, Laurie. Brilliant. The one I came up with was be green by going red. So be green to save the planet by going red. We all know London buses are red. Get on the bus.
Hey, okay. There's your fantastic inspirations. Good luck, everybody. See you again in 1 minute's time. Now you've got your words, you need to do your drawings. You need to make them big, bold, and eye-catching so that anybody who sees your poster realizes how much cooler it is to travel on your newly redesigned bus for the future than to go in their boring cars. Laurie and Stuart, you shared your ideas for cool, future buses with us before, and I've come up with some drawings for them. What do you think?
That is amazing. So this is clearly someone having an amazing bus ride, plugged into Bus FM and watching the tablet on the seat in front. But this looks like a really, really fun way to take the bus.
Oh, thanks, Laurie. You're too kind, too kind. Stuart, over to you. What about this person? They're having a great time in the cafe on board the bus.
Chloe, I love what you've done. So I can see this guy enjoying his hot dog. I'm not quite sure what's in his left hand. Maybe some coffee grains that he's thrown away. And he's chucking down a tube there. Maybe that tube can go straight to the engine to power the bus. That is the bus of the future, and I want to see it happen.
Now that you've got your words, and in a moment you'll have your drawings as well, or your ideas for them, it's time to put them down on paper so you can work by yourself, with somebody else, or maybe in a 3-2. Here's your design brief for the one last time. You're going to be designing a poster that asks people to consider the effects of their vehicle use on our planet, persuades people to leave their cars at home, and shows off your design improvements for buses of the future. Once you finish your posters, we would love to see them. Please share them with us. Please share them using the handle @LTMuseum with the hashtag #IHeartLTM. And if you're watching this before the 30th of April 2021, you can also enter your posters into British Science Week's poster competition. Check it out on their website, www.britishscienceweek.org. Thanks so much for joining us today, everyone. Let's say a big thank you and bye-bye to Laurie. Bye, Laurie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And a big thank you and bye-bye to Stuart as well. Bye-bye, Stuart.
Bye-bye. Great to meet you all.
Bye, everyone.